You guys, welcome to Sick of Pricks, a type 2 diabetes podcast. I'm Mary, your diabetes bestie. And today we're diving into one of those topics that hits you in the gut before it even reaches your brain, the fear of complications. You know the drill. You hear the word diabetes and immediately it's followed by you'll go blind, you'll lose a limb, kidney failure, heart attacks. And if you've ever Googled your condition at 3 a.m., yeah, you know, it doesn't really paint a pretty picture or a hopeful one. But today we're going to ask a different question. How do you stay aware without staying afraid? How do you take care of yourself without turning your entire life into a constant emergency? Because let's be real, fear might get your attention, but it doesn't help you build a life. So let's talk about it. Here's where fear starts and why it sticks. The fear of complications doesn't come out of nowhere. It's planted. It's like this little seed that festers and grows. And it's usually pretty early on in your diagnosis, and it's often by the medical system itself. Your first appointment might go something like, if you don't get this under control, you're going to go blind. You're going to need insulin. You're going to lose a toe or a foot or whatever. And there's memes and jokes all over the place about how funny it is to have complications from type 2 diabetes, right? There's no, let's do this together. There's no, let's talk about what's realistic for you. It's just doom and gloom. And even if the doctor meant well, or even if your family members, friends, coworkers who are sharing their stories about their grandma who lost her foot, that fear stays stuck in your nervous system. It follows you everywhere, every grocery store trip, into the restaurant, into your thoughts at night when you're wondering if you're doing enough, or if you're wondering if you're too late. That's the kind of fear that doesn't motivate you. It paralyzes you. And I want to say this very clearly. You are not broken for being scared. You're not weak for feeling overwhelmed. You are a human being trying to make sense of a disease that, let's be honest, was never explained to you probably in a compassionate, empowering way. So if you've been walking around, like me, with a quiet voice in the back of your head whispering, what if something bad happens? You're not alone. That voice is more common than you think. But it doesn't get to be in charge. So let's talk about what's real and what's not real when it comes to complications. Risk in real life, not the memes, not like fear-mongering TikToks, not outdated pamphlets from the doctor's office, okay? Real talk. Yes, diabetes complications can happen, but they don't usually come out of nowhere. They're often the result of years, sometimes decades, of unmanaged blood sugar and other factors like blood pressure, cholesterol, smoking, stress, access to healthcare, and genetics. And guess what? The good news, even small improvements in your self-care can reduce those risks in a big way. Drop your A1C by 1 point, your risk of eye, kidney, and nerve damage goes way down. Add 15 minutes of movement every day, your insulin sensitivity improves. Stay hydrated and manage stress. You're supporting your kidneys, your heart, and your mental health. That means that you don't have to overhaul your entire life overnight. You just have to keep showing up. Every small action is a quiet kind of courage, and it counts. So the next thing we're going to talk about, and this is like not the fun part, but it's the empowering part, I feel like, because knowledge is power. And the more that you know about this disease that we're living with, the more prepared you are and the more action you can take to be proactive in your health. So we are going to talk about knowing the signs and what complications look like. What do we need to be on the lookout for? When do we need to call the doctor, right? Because usually you hear like the worst case scenarios, kidney failure, dialysis, blindness, amputations. And It's easy to think like those things come out of nowhere, but the reality is it's not like one day you're fine and the next you're not. That's usually not how it works. Most complications, especially when they're caught early, can be slowed, managed, or even reversed. So instead of being scared, let's get really specific on what to look for so we can stop spiraling and stop panicking. Let's talk first about your eyeballs, okay? Here's what I want you to watch out for: blurry vision that comes and goes, trouble seeing at night, floaters or dark spots, sudden changes in how you see light or color. Have you scheduled your annual eye exam? Dilated eye exam. If you have not, this is your friendly reminder that you need to do that. Like, finish listening to this episode first, of course, but then pick up the phone, make your appointment, okay? It's not optional. It's a requirement. It is your annual check-in early warning system. And I know it feels funny. I hate the eye doctor. I always think it's such a big deal. And then when I'm done, I'm like, okay, that wasn't so bad. All right, next we're talking about nerve health, neuropathy. Here's what you're going to watch for: tingling in your hands or feet, numbness in your toes, burning, stabbing, or shooting pain that feels random, balance issues, especially when you're barefoot. And you guys, we have to check our feet, especially if you are dealing with some of that tingling or numbness, because things can happen to our feet and we not realize it till we look at it, especially if we're dealing with neuropathy. So now let's talk about our feet. You're going to watch for cuts or sores that heal slowly, swelling or redness, calluses or blisters you didn't notice forming, and pain that doesn't seem to have a cause. Your feet matter. And that sounds like such a silly sentence, like, my feet matter, okay? You got to check on them. I know one of the helpful hints I give for my sisterhood members is when you're choosing socks, and I know we want to be cute, but when you're living with diabetes, you want to make sure that your circulation isn't impacted by tight socks on the ankle. Do they have to be like special, expensive diabetic socks? Like, no, but there's a reason they're called that. It's because they fit loose around the ankle and the seams are on the outside so they don't irritate your toes. So are they a bad idea? No. But also, if you wear white socks, when you're taking your socks off, it's much easier to see if there's any blood or any discoloration, something like that. Whereas if you're wearing colored socks, not so easy to tell. Okay, so white socks, loose fitting ankles, seams on the outside, those are all helpful for us. Okay, let's talk kidneys. You're going to watch for swelling in the hands, feet, or face, peeing more or less than usual, foamy urine, and constant fatigue or trouble focusing. Your doctor should be monitoring your kidney health at least once a year. I go every 3 months to the endocrinologist, and they always run kidney tests every single time. Let's talk about heart health now. Watch for shortness of breath, chest discomfort, fatigue from small tasks, swelling in legs or feet, dizziness or lightheadedness. You don't have to panic every single time, but you do need to trust yourself when something feels off, okay? So check in with yourself. I know it's another thing, right, to add to our never-ending to-do list of work, family, house, everything. But your health is important. So take the time to check in on those parts to see if anything needs a call to the doctor and a checkup. Back to awareness and anxiety. Knowing what to look for is not the same as living in fear. Awareness is what gives you options. It gives you power, time. It's not paranoia. It's proactive, okay? We got to know what we're dealing with here, and we have to know the warning signs to look for. There was a time in my life where my choices about my diabetes management were fear-based. I let fear and anxiety rule how I lived with type 2 diabetes. I wasn't making a choice based on feeling empowered. I was reacting from panic. I'd have high numbers and spiral into this, oh my gosh, I've ruined everything. I'm headed straight towards, complication city. And then I would punish myself with like super restrictive eating. I would skip events because I was worried about the food that was going to be there, or I would bring my own food under the guise of like, I'm so disciplined and committed to my health, when really it was because I was terrified. Checking my numbers constantly, obsessively, and then avoiding checking them when I couldn't get things under control. Okay. It was exhausting. Fear didn't make me healthier. It made me burned out, disconnected, and honestly, it made me feel like I didn't even deserve a good life if I couldn't get it under control. And that's the problem. Fear tells you that you're only safe if you're perfect, but perfection is not a requirement. Being present is. Your progress is. Compassion for yourself and for others is. So, how do you keep going without being ruled by fear? You start with a simple sentence, play it on repeat in your head. I am not a ticking time bomb. I am not broken. I am learning. Then you remind yourself that health is not binary. You're not either succeeding or failing. You're in process. You're practicing. You're adjusting as you go. You're becoming. And you move or exercise because it makes you feel strong. You don't do it to punish yourself. You take your meds because they help, not because you're bad for needing them. And you eat with awareness, not with shame. And when the fear shows up, because I promise you it will, you meet it with facts and kindness, not panic. So here's what helped me most. I had to learn how complications actually happen. It's not through one blood sugar spike, not through one missed workout. It happens over time. And that means you have time to take the steps that matter and build habits that last. Okay, speaking of habits, I had to build habits I could actually live with based on my life, my lifestyle, my likes, my dislikes, and what I was willing to change, and quite honestly, what I was not willing to change. No crash diets for me, no guilt trips, sustainable movement, mindful eating, tools to help me deal with my stress, and sleep and rest and recovery when I needed it. I had to let go of the perfectionist mindset when it came to life with type 2. My new motto, progress over perfection. It's not just like a cute little quote that you see come up on your Facebook feed, okay? It's a survival strategy and it works. I had to remind myself that fear will try to shrink your world, to steal your joy. It is our job not to let it. And you are required, allowed to live boldly, travel, love, laugh, eat cake, chase joy, and say yes to things while living with diabetes, because this is your one life. And diabetes might be part of your story, but fear does not get to write your ending. If you needed this one today, I hope it reminded you that fear is loud, but it is not the truth. The truth is you're doing the best you can with the tools you have, and that is enough. The truth is complications are not guaranteed. And the truth is life is worth living and joy is part of the prescription. Thanks for hanging out with me here on Sick of Pricks. I'll be back with more unfiltered, shame-free, and unapologetic conversations about living well with type 2. Until then, go live your life. You deserve it. Be sure to like, subscribe, leave a review, and share this with someone who needs to hear it too. And come hang out with me and Sugar Mama Strong over on Facebook. You can find all the links in the episode notes. As always, thanks for listening, and I'll see you next time.